All right, guys, what's up? So, episode 4 now, Unkaged Podcast. We're going to
Yeah,
be going over basically the couple things that we didn't touch over on the last episode on what to do as a amateur competitor
yeah,
trying to get into bodybuilding and basically touch up on nutrition, a little bit more on training, how to actually register for a show, and how to reverse out of your show, which I feel like a lot of people still don't know to this day.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Too many people I see, yeah, come off stage and in the first month or two put on like, a excess amount of body fat. They're up, 15, 20 pounds. And it's like, well,
it's freaking crazy.
what a reverse. Apologies for the quality, by the way. We are recording this on an iPhone. So
All right, my MacBook took a shit on us today, so it did not want to connect. So hopefully the quality
it's still pretty decent.
pretty decent, but
Yeah.
we're gonna see after this. But all right, so just kind of getting into what we were talking about. So in terms of training, right? I think in terms of training for bodybuilding, getting into I would say a groove with understanding what feels good versus what doesn't, especially as you get more brittle, as you get just tinier in general, right? If you're starting, I don't know, at 20% body fat and you're like 180 pounds at like 5'6", you're probably gonna have to be around like 140s, maybe 150s,
Yeah.
like at a super very lean competitive state, and might be less. And
Depends on your
those
training age for sure. Yeah. It's gonna depend on how
exactly.
long you've been in the gym. I think like one thing that I think would be really cool to touch on is like class specific um training. So like specialization in training. Um, Something that I don't see a lot of competitors, first time competitors, sort of put enough attention towards. And I think it's dependent. I think if you're within your first couple of years of lifting, then a program that is going to just bring up everything is necessary, right? So a pretty generalized workout split. But as you get more and more mature in your training and you can kind of see weak points, weak areas, and strong points, you definitely want to specialize your training in the areas that are going to make you most competitive for your specific class. So if you're a men's physique competitor, you definitely want to bring up your lats, you want to bring up your delts. That's going to make you really competitive in that category. Um,
Mhm.
your abs, right? That's also huge. If you are competing in classic, making sure that you're having enough. A lot of guys, in that category, I see just lack legs. And so making sure that you're training your legs, to be more competitive in that category. So I think that is something that often is overlooked by first-time competitors is you step on stage and your weak points are very noticeable.
Mhm.
And that's something that you address in the off season.
Yeah, and I think once you're actually on stage and you see pictures of yourself side by side with other athletes, it's something that you can also compare, right? And be like, okay, this is what I'm missing versus what I'm not. So that is very, very good advice just to kind of at least know where you stand, right? And I think this kind of goes back to assessing your physique. So before you head into any show, really be critical with yourself as to how much time you've truly let yourself develop, right? Or things that you might need that might need to come up. At any amateur show, everyone's gonna be missing something. There's not gonna be somebody that's just like Arnold Schwarzenegger there that's just standing on stage. There might be maybe
You
like
might find that genetic
yeah,
freak. Yeah.
but that's just how it is, right? But there's not it's not like everyone you're gonna go up against is gonna look like that, right? There everyone's gonna probably be missing something. There might be one guy that's like just insane, but that's kind of about it really. But for most of the time, yeah, that does make sense in terms of understanding what strong suits you have. Like if you have smaller legs, going into like maybe a men's physique category first, giving your legs a couple years to catch up, maybe then to do classic physique. Um, and so forth, right? I think regardless of whatever category you decide, you're just gonna need size in general. Like more size in general is always gonna be a
Better.
very good
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. And you can't really gain too much size.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to be afraid of putting on too much size
Yeah,
as
unless
a
you're at the
natural.
pro level, bro,
Yeah.
or as a natural, yeah, you can't really be afraid of getting to, like you can't. You bodybuilding has evolved so much to the point where like, yeah, you can't really get too
Yeah.
big.
Like it's like yeah. This would be probably a bigger topic in the enhanced versions of things, right? Like if you're somebody that's just throwing everything under the sun to just get as big as you possibly can, apart from the health outcomes that you're going to get from it, like you're probably also you might disfigure your look, but that's a whole nother topic with substances and things you can start doing. But in terms of training, yeah, I think that's setting up a proper training regime heading into a show, understanding what your weak points are, touching on those things maybe. But I would say for most of you, you just need to hit everything. You need to hit majority of things. You can touch on weak points too during a prep, but just understand it's not really going to make too big of a difference, right? In that small amount of time that you have.
Yeah.
But regardless, it's still something you can incorporate, right? Um, but I think at the end of it all, I think the biggest thing in terms of structuring a proper like training regime going into a prep is just doing things that are going to keep you safe, not injured. If you're younger, you could probably suffer through it and do some crazy shit. But I think right, like as you get older, I definitely think you have, or if you've been injured before, you probably have more to worry about when it comes to a prep because you're just not going to feel as strong,
Yeah.
especially at the end. And if you're doing a lot of compound movements, things are going to feel weird
Yeah.
in terms of like the center of mass you have, the ability to brace. It's just not going to feel the same. You're not going to feel as explosive. Your joints might ache a little bit. So like I think all those things are very good things to kind of just be aware about and maybe not to program or maybe switch to a movement that's more, um, what's the word? Uh, Safe in terms of just like the way that you're moving, right? Like comparing like a barbell squat to like an assisted squat, for example, something that's just going to keep you more secure inside the machine, less variables to worry about. Um, but yeah, I would say that's probably going to be like the biggest thing going into a training.
Yeah, I think your first prep is always the trickiest in that regard, because you're in a depleted state and the first time you go into a prep, it's not something that you really understand that you're going to be in such a depleted state and that everything takes a toll. Your joints, connective tissue, everything is going to be a little bit more fragile. And so taking your time to also incorporate different mobility movements and going through proper warm-ups is also going to make a really big difference when you head into those workouts because you're going to be able to assess before you even head into your training and head into your like hard working sets for that session, what feels good and what doesn't, right? So then that way you can be careful. It takes a lot of just intuition, right? Being intuitive with your body and understanding like where, if you have any aches, any pains, and how to work around that because it's inevitable on a prep. You are going to have some aches, you are going to have some pains. And so knowing how to work around that and knowing when to take appropriate rest time, appropriate recovery time, super important because that can very easily ruin a prep is getting injured. You have some sort of tear or, something with connective tissue and you're out, right? Now you no longer can do your prep and now you have probably a prolonged off season and it just sucks.
Yeah. I think a very good example of this. So I have an athlete right now that I'm working with, and he loves to train with a lot of intensity techniques. He's the kind of guy that will just turn like a failure set to like a rest pause set and just keep going. Like he'll rest like 5 seconds and just want to keep going. And as we've dieted down now and he's getting leaner, he's getting way more fatigued,
Yeah.
way more beat up, and he's feeling certain things that he hasn't felt before, like slight achiness, slight tenderness around like different parts of his body. So like all those things are signs that you are most likely overdoing it when it comes to your training. I think a very big thing that we have going into a bodybuilding prep a lot of the times, I feel like guys just think they just have to push harder,
Yeah.
and they think that that's the part that they need to push harder on. But in reality, especially if you're natural, most of the time you have to just pull things back a little bit, right? We're not saying that you have to train away from failure. You can definitely keep the intensity in your sets and whatever you do, but maybe doing like, 3 or 4 drop sets on movements,
Yeah.
pause set or something like that might just not be necessary right now because you don't have as much. And I think that's also a very big thing I do see a lot of guys doing is that they kind of turn it into like a race. They just want to do as much as possible right now when you still got like freaking 12 weeks to go, dude. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we can't bury ourselves into the ground right now,
And there's a balance between like stimulus and recovery, right? Like it's just going to take you longer to recover in a depleted state. So making sure that you don't overtrain and overreach so early in a prep scenario, that's also going to hurt you because training intensity, right, is as far as I've seen, I know is like a really big indicator of how much muscle you're going to retain throughout in a prep scenario. Like if you can keep your training intensity high, you're going to retain more size. You just are. But you also don't want to overdo it. So it's again having that like intuition, being intuitive with your body, understanding how far you can push it while being able to maintain your recovery and not hurting yourself.
Quality over quantity. At some
100%.
point, that's because in the off season you can kind of be a little bit more reckless with it, right? Like you probably do 4 or 5 sets of something and like you're fine, right? You
Yeah.
have enough food, you have enough recovery window, like you're chilling. But during a prep scenario, those 4 to 5 sets might just completely toast you. Like
Yeah.
you might be done after that.
Yeah.
And so therefore it becomes a little bit smarter to like pull those things back a little bit, do what you can, make the set quality, and then maybe move on to a different exercise, right? So and that I feel like, yeah, for sure it's going to preserve a lot more muscle. And you're not going to beat yourself into the ground trying to recover like 2 to 3 days when you don't have enough calories. So I think that's huge. But yeah, I think overall, I think in terms of training, I mean, don't overdo it. Don't get injured.
Yeah.
Do something that you can stick to. I
Yeah.
think for a lot of you guys, it might be just an upper lower split. If you want to add like a day where you specialize your arms or do a kind of weak point, you can definitely do that. But I think an upper lower split for a lot of you guys probably work pretty good.
Yeah.
Push pull leg.
Most people just need size. Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever you want to design in terms of a split for you, it's all just going to come down to what works better for your body and what you feel like you recover on at the end of the day. I don't think there's anything fancy that comes with it. I just think something that you enjoy and something that helps you keep progression without killing yourself, I think is pretty good.
Exercise selection, I think, is also huge. Like making sure that you're picking movements or that you're working with the coach that helps you assess and pick movements that are going to be that you feel well. I think that's like so often overlooked now and kind of has been in the social like media sphere like has now been trumped by like this science base like everything has to have optimal leverages, everything has to have like yeah, it's like no, like if you can feel a movement and you feel that stimulus in the target muscle group that you're trying to hit, like that's probably a pretty good movement for you, right? Everybody has different leverages, everybody feel stimulus in a different way. And so if you do a fucking a lat pullover and for you, you don't feel that shit. You only feel it in your triceps and you know you're doing the form good, then that's probably not a good movement for you. You should probably pick something else to target your lats. So I think that's really, really huge as well, is picking movements that are going to be good for you. Everybody's different.
That goes back to injury prevention too. Like a lot of you are stuck in the mindset of just doing something, even though it might feel really bad, or you maybe are working through pain.
Because you heard it on TikTok that this was the most optimal thing to do. This was the best workout for your fucking lats.
I think
Or
at the end, I think that hurts you more long term, especially in a prep scenario, because you're just getting more brittle as the time goes on. That's all that's going on. And if you keep that up, at some point you're going to snap. Something's going to happen, and it's probably going to at least delay your prep scenario, right? Or it's just gonna have to be something you have to work around, and that sucks. It sucks having an injury like when you're in a prep or even in any dieting scenario, right? Because you already aren't feeling like 10 out of 10 energy, right? Now you got to deal with this freaking injury, and it bugs you every time you go into train. You have less food, like
yeah.
all those things stack up. That increases stress. That increases like overall mentality about the show, and I think that's when people start like not really wanting to follow through with it, right? And you get demotivated, things like that, right?
I think that's really important too. Like if you're talking about enhanced athletes and especially like if you're running your very first cycle, like brother, your joints take longer to catch up. They like your muscles might blow up, but your joints take a while. They lag behind. It's going to take a minute for all that connective tissue. And especially if you're going through a prep now, man, you are way more prone to getting injured. I think I've seen more enhanced guys get injured through their like first preps than natural guys.
Yeah. Most of that, yeah, is very true. It's just due to connective tissue, right? So a lot of the times, like our joints and tendons just don't grow as fast as our muscles do, especially if you're starting a cycle like heading into your first show. I think that's a very not smart thing to do. I feel like, especially if it's your first cycle, because you're gonna get stronger. Obviously, you're gonna be psyched about it. The more things you end up putting in mentally, you're just gonna feel better, right?
Yeah.
And so you're getting leaner. But that's honestly, I feel like, in my opinion, like the worst time to push that. That's honestly a big reason why I do feel like a lot of people get injured. As a natural, you don't really have to like. I feel like it's a little bit harder to do just because it's not like you're gonna get like crazy freaking strong at
Yeah.
like the end of a prep. Most
Yeah.
of the time, you
You're
just get a
weaker.
little weaker.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that is something very huge. But yeah, in terms of training, I think those are like the biggest things that you want to capitalize on, just to make sure that you don't injure yourself or you don't wreck your prep. I feel like in general. Anything else you want to cover?
No, I think we touched most of it.
Okay, so nutrition. So we kind of touched a little bit on nutrition last time. A lot of different things that you can go into when it comes into like a diet or sorry a prep scenario, right? So there's people that calorie cycle. There are people that go straight keto. There are people that just go do a base diet and they just keep dropping calories and they have a base diet all throughout all 7 days a week. Um, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you manipulate it. You have to understand that it's going to come down to what you're putting in your mouth. So obviously the food, how much activity you're doing, and that could be mixed in with steps and actual mandatory cardio, and how much you're sleeping. I think all those things combined are going to ultimately make or break your conditioning on that. Nutrition is just going to be like the biggest thing because pulling down calories, I feel like is always going to be like your like the biggest lever you can pull to make you even sharper. I do think though that there is a fine line with overdoing it versus underdoing it. So I do think that in the beginning, I personally like pushing a lot of my clients in the beginning to just get the fat off. I would rather suffer now than have them like 3 or 4 or 2 weeks out and they still have like 5 or 10 more pounds to lose.
Yeah.
And by that point, they're stressing to get it off. We have a time crunch, and it doesn't. I just don't feel like it makes for the best outcome on stage when they're stressed out. They don't feel like they look as good, and then now it's just kind of like, well, we're just gonna see what you get, right? So like, I don't like that, and I think in the beginning, I'd much rather pull them down, give them some time to refeed heading into a show. That's always gonna. I feel like that's
Yeah.
always gonna be like the perfect scenario, right? Is when you can feed someone into the show. Most guys, most likely going to have to diet pretty close to the show to get to that point, or it's going to probably have to be their second or third or fourth show, right? So because they're already in like better conditioning than they were for their first one. But I would say for the first show, I would always, always, always push more in the beginning, just because you always have a lot more to lose in terms of that. So nutrition is going to be my biggest lever when it comes to that.
I think there's also like there's definitely different ways to prep athletes, and it's going to be like athlete to athlete dependent, and that is absolutely a great way to prep an athlete. I think like in the beginning, generally you just have you can afford to be in a steeper deficit. You can afford to lose a lot quicker without seeing a hit in your gym performance or your recovery.
Especially if you're like 20+% body fat.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think that like the way that I've coached my athletes The majority of them, I just like to set up longer prep timelines. I like to make sure that we have plenty of time to diet into a show. So like your general prep is going to be anywhere from like 12 to 16 weeks. I like to push my athletes like 16 to 20 plus weeks. Because it's going to give us more time to diet into a show and I can kind of ease them into their deficit. So there's different ways to do it. There's different ways you can prep athletes. And, sometimes that might mean that, yeah, they need to diet into the show. Best case scenario, if that athlete starts at a lean enough body fat percentage, like if they're an athlete that's like 15, 16%, that's where their prep starts, then you're likely going to have more than plenty of time to be able to then, refeed them and give them more food there at the end. But like for a guy that's his first show and he, starting above like 20, 25% body fat, that person, unless you have a really long prep timeline, like a year, like probably a year, like if you're talking a guy that's like, 200 plus pounds and, they're maybe 5'6", it's their first show, that person, you're probably going to also need to give diet breaks to because they tend to be people that are also very food focused. So for them, dieting for very prolonged periods of time is very mentally challenging, as well as like for a lot of those guys, you'll start to see performance drop-offs as well in the gym. And so in order to sort of um, keep their gym performance, you want to give them diet breaks. So you might have a week or two break where you put them on a maintenance block so that they are able to, kind of just chill out, settle out, and then head back into their deficit.
Yeah, and I think that's also a very good thing is incorporating diet breaks if you have the time to do so, because this kind of also falls into more psychological stressors, right, for a lot of clients. And sometimes like the weight stalls that you might see are just due to the fact that they're a little bit more in that stress state. So I do think that incorporating a diet break every now and then, um, depending on how much they have to lose, like for example, for me, I know that if I have a guy over 20+% body fat, I think every 20 pounds or so, maybe 25, I might give them either a couple of days where they're either at maintenance. It might even be a week, or so where they're at maintenance, and I might give them like a free meal or a free day where they can just like spend time with family, go out, whatever it might be, right? So it all is going to come down to where their timeline is, and also just how they feel mentally, right? There's guys that can just go straight through. They don't I don't even have to
Yeah.
worry about that. There's other guys that are a little bit more focused, right? Or maybe for them, the part that stresses them out is the fact that they can't enjoy time with other people. Or they feel like they aren't because they're just bringing their meal, or they're constantly like looking at the menu and thinking like, oh my God, what can I order? So it like stresses them out. And so I feel like for a lot of those guys, it becomes very important to just stop tracking for like a day, just go spend time with your family, go out, have breakfast, right? Have dinner with your girl, whatever it is you have to do, but no tracking today. Just give yourself that mental, uh, I would say, break
I
from
think you
just being.
perfectly described like what a food focused individual is like. Like it's somebody that feels like they can't enjoy themselves, feel like they can't have a good time because they're always thinking about food. They're always thinking about the next meal. They're always thinking about calories. They're always thinking about, and so yeah, that is definitely, um, you take a different approach with that sort of athlete, um, for sure. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is just it's psychological. Like I think food in general is going to be psychological. Every athlete is going to have a different form going into a prep that's going to help them just get to the best possible shape, right? And sometimes, and I've even had this before where I've had clients that have committed to a show and we start dieting and it's just not the right time. Like plain and simple, like it's not the right time. There's a lot of different things that are stressing them out in life, and food for them is just something that they can't let go of during
Yeah.
that phase of their life. And shit happens, right? Like sometimes it's just not going to be perfect, right? At the end of the day, what you're choosing to do here is going to be hard. Like choosing to starve yourself is hard. It's hard even if you have a coach telling you what you need to do, because it's not like the coach is there like 24 hours in your body, right? Like just
Yeah.
telling you like, hey, you have to do this, right? You can choose to goof off and cheat, right? There's a lot of people that do, but sometimes like I think that's also a big thing is like you got to be real with yourself, right? Is this really a perfect time for you to do this, right? Or to give yourself a time to actually kind of endure this process, right? Because it's not going to be easy.
Yeah. I think choosing like when to do a prep, yeah, you definitely want to understand that it's a ginormous time investment. It's a ginormous emotional investment. You are
Energy
going to,
investment.
yeah, yeah, energy investment. You are absolutely going to need to, and keep in mind, this is all a willing sacrifice because we choose to bodybuild. It's not something that anybody's forcing upon us. And so going into with that mentality, but also understanding that, yeah, you're going to need to sacrifice time with friends and family. You're going to need to sacrifice food. You're going to need to sacrifice, like, you're going to be in the gym near the end of your prep for probably 2+ hours, a day, or at least 5 to 6 times a week. And that's a huge time investment. That's a huge energy commitment. The remainder of your, like, the majority of the energy that you're using throughout your day is going to be if if this is really serious for you, is going to be towards your training. And so that is ginormous, and you're going to need to set apart, whatever your prep timeline looks like, maybe, 3, 4, 5 months out of the year where you can do that. And so, I find this to be a lot trickier with guys that are like in school, or guys that have really labor intensive jobs. Like maybe they're a labor, they're like they work in something that's blue collar. Um, so you just have to know that going in, that it is a huge, like Gon said, it's a huge energy investment, time investment. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot and
Especially if you're somebody that like takes trips a lot too. Like you have,
travel for
you're on
work.
the go, or if you're a business owner and you're doing like, you know what I mean? Like you're traveling. I think all that is signs that you are probably not in the best time right now. Or if you know that there's big stressors coming up, right? Or maybe a vacation that's coming up, right? All those things are definitely things that you want to take into consideration before you establish a prep timeline. Is seeing how many of those things are there, right? And everyone's gonna be different. Some people can go through them and they'll be able to diet through them and do their activity just fine. Other people, that's just going to be something that might just break them
Yeah.
during that like last week or maybe a couple last weeks,
Yeah.
right?
I want to touch though on the other side of the token as well, though. I think it is something that is extremely rewarding to do. Like doing a prep is like you did it, right? At the end of it, everybody has different commitments, everybody has different life struggles. And so at the end of it, once you're done, you're like, well, shit, I really did that. I really went through a prep while working a full-time job and owning a business and doing XYZ. So it's not as a way to discourage you, but it's definitely like just you should know. It's something that you should know going into it. So
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's huge. It's something that I feel like a lot of people will never do ever in their life. Like getting to a position like where you look insane, like literally to anyone, to any normal person, you look crazy. Like you look like a freaking Greek statue.
yeah,
Like I feel like that's the equivalent of that. I feel like any person that is able to push themselves to that point, like that's literally what you're getting to, right? And that I feel like is so unachievable by so many just due to like mental fatigue, also just like the commitment of it. Like I feel like all those things are super hard things. A lot of people will never ever go through, right? Because why do you have to, right? Nowadays, food is everywhere. Like you can literally just stay at home all day and not do anything, right? And so I feel like that is the biggest thing. Is I feel like it is a ginormous accomplishment because you're kind of just saying no to temptation. You're kind of just putting yourself in one block and you're just kind of saying no to everything. I think that builds a lot of mental discipline. It builds a lot of resiliency over time, and I think that could be applied to anywhere, any facet in life that you decide to go to from here. Like I've known many people that have done a prep that have started like a business venture afterwards, or have like took in what they've learned from enduring that prep and going through the suffering that's endured through that, and pushed it to other avenues of their life that have helped them now become to what they want to do or what they want to be, right? And so I think all those things are very huge, right? So it is a giant reward at the end, but yeah, it is also a very hard thing to do, right? But just mainly due to the environment that we have.
yeah,
But yeah, but I think going back to nutrition, like I definitely think the biggest things just to highlight on nutrition is calorie deficit, seeing what foods work well with you digestion wise, right? Like definitely if you know for a fact you're eating something that is bloating you, that is maybe causing you to gain a couple pounds the next day, even if you're in a deficit, right? Things that are inflaming you. Maybe I know there's a lot of guys that start abusing Diet Cokes, or they start abusing sugar-free stuff, uh, zero calorie sauces, huge. Or even on the other side of things, people start salting foods way too much, start overly seasoning their
yeah.
foods way too much. I think all those things are definitely things that are going to impair your gut over time. And as you get closer to a show, that bloating sensation, like not being able to keep your core tight or even vacuum, I think are huge. And I think that if you're just kind of just blowing that over by consuming those things, it's not really going to help you the day of the show. Because the last thing you want to do is be that guy up on stage that's like overly bloated or like can't even hold like a tight core for their life, or they have faded abs for some reason, right?
I also want to say, like in a prep scenario, this is definitely way more important, but the time to experiment with these things is in an off-season setting. So like if you're not sure what foods might or might not digest well with you in an off-season setting, that's going to be the good time to experiment with different foods, try out different recipes, all that stuff, because you have the wiggle room to be able to. I mean, you don't have a set timeline for when you need to be on stage and look fucking good, and so that is really the appropriate time to play around with different variables, including food and seasonings and salt and all that shit. I think as a general rule of thumb, while you're in your prep scenario, just maintaining whatever you're already doing, if you feel good doing that. So like if you're salting your food with, I don't know, 1.5 to 2 grams of salt a day, right? That's your sodium intake a day. Keep it there. You don't need to change it. You don't need to increase that. You don't need to really reduce it either. So just like if you feel good with your current nutrition protocol, with your current supplementation protocol, with your current training protocol, there's not much you need to change other than, yeah, head yourself into a deficit. Like as long as you feel good, keep your variables the same. Like really the biggest difference, like if you want to be a really good bodybuilder, it's a year-round gig, right? So your prep variables, the biggest difference in the off season is just going to be an increase. It's an increase in food. It's a decrease in cardio, right? It's a increase in training volume. So, but it's all really at the end of the day the same shit.
That's huge because like you got to know when it's an impulsivity, right? When it's something that you're just doing because you just need something, right? And I think that becomes very common as you get leaner. That impulsive feeling to just do something that's going to just trigger just like a dopamine release is very easy to do.
Oh
You
man.
see a lot of guys buying stuff that they don't need, or they are like increasing like just more soda intake, more
Yeah.
caffeine intake, all those different things.
Yeah.
I feel like will feed into that,
Yeah.
and you just have to know, hey, let's take 2 seconds here.
Yeah.
Let's reevaluate the situation. Do I really need this right now?
Yeah.
Or am I just fiending for this just
Yeah.
because like I need some release, right? A lot of the times I feel like what helps is I mean, one, yeah, like taking 2 steps back or talking to somebody about it right before you make that decision. I feel like somebody that's not in a diet phase, right? Like maybe a coach or maybe like could be a spouse, could be whoever, right? Somebody that you know for a fact right now is level-headed, clear-minded right
Yeah.
now. But two, also just um, I would say going to bed, like actually going to sleep, like sleeping on it. Because if it is going to be like something that is a bigger financial commitment or something that you're just deciding to make that, you know, maybe for a fact it's a little bit impulsive, I think sleeping on it and just making sure that you give yourself a day
Yeah.
where you reset everything, you wake up, and if it's something that you still are super adamant about doing, well, then pull the trigger. But I feel like most of the time that should be more than enough for you to reset and be like, yeah, I'm good. I
Yeah.
don't actually need
And this
that.
applies to like a lot. It applies to food, it applies to supplements, it applies to PEDs, to peptides. Like most of the time, you probably don't need to add in another variable. Now, again, sometimes it like takes just consulting a spouse, a partner, a coach to for them to really be able to help and guide you. Like, yeah, this could actually help you in your prep scenario. Because yeah, there are times where an increase or decrease, a change in a variable will absolutely help you and put you in a better headspace. I know on prep, I bought a car. I bought a car. And part of the reason why I did that was because, yeah, I mean, I'm just in a state where I'm like, dude, I need some form of change. I need something to happen right now. And that kind of just gave me an outlet to kind of just be distracted, right? Do something else. Now, was it the right time? Was it the appropriate decision? Probably not for that time, to be completely honest. But nonetheless, like that's why it really helps to have somebody like a coach or a spouse, somebody that you can consult with, and they can tell you without any bias, like this is stupid, this is a good idea, or let's do this instead.
Car helped him win a show.
I did. I did. We got first.
But yeah, no, I think that that's very huge, right? But yeah, I think in terms of nutrition, just getting back on that, like I think the biggest things, yeah, like experimenting during off season, right? Understanding the foods that work well with you, setting up a diet. So depending on whatever way you want to structure, whether it's high low days, like refeed days, like just one base diet, you need to go keto, whatever works well for you. You understand that at least like during like a pre-prep phase or something where you have at least a month or two to just see what foods are doing good versus what isn't, what's fueling you, what isn't, and then just going from there. A lot of you guys are going to do very good, just honestly keeping it very simple. Okay, keeping it basic, using a lot of whole source of food. Like I'm talking
Oh,
like stuff you see on the food pyramid. Okay, feel like meats, eggs, bread, rice, even things like potatoes, vegetables, fruits. All those things are most
yeah.
likely going to do pretty good for you, unless you have some kind of digestive issues, gut issues, or whatever with certain foods or starches or things like that, right? But you'll learn if you do the pre-prep phase accordingly. You can take those foods out and just keep what works well for you in.
I think for majority of guys, it's going to be sort of, or majority of people, like that's going to be the ideal diet for your prep scenario is like a whole foods approach. Yeah, I mean, because it's going to be the perfect recipe for micronutrient density, generally high protein intake. You're going to have vegetables and fruits, which are going to be low calorie dense foods, right? They're going to be higher fiber foods. So, I mean, look, the Greg Doucette low calorie dense food approach, it can work. I actually did my first prep with a lot of my diet being in that sort of that format, right? But the thing that you get with that generally is one, you're going to lose out on some essential micros, especially if you're predispositioned to have some sort of deficiency. And then two is like the gut health, the gut issues that you're going to get from that, because a lot of it is going to be with a lot of fillers, a lot of thickeners, thickening agents like xanthan gum, and a lot of artificial sweeteners, and that can absolutely fuck your gut up. That can disrupt sleep. Yeah, same thing with the fiber. If you're eating way too much fiber, that's definitely going to that's you're bloat maxing right there, and that's definitely going to also affect sleep quality, your recovery. So generally speaking, for the majority of my athletes, I always take a whole foods approach. It just works. It's literally it's the perfect recipe for a bodybuilding prep.
Yeah, and there's like it's less variables. Like it's easier to prep. Like you don't have to worry about adding in 15, 16 different ingredients for one meal. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I think all those things are cool. Now, does that mean that like, you can't make like freaking protein pancakes with like whole foods or like things like that, right? Like I think there should be like a fine line. I think that you can make whole source of food, also things like that, right? And you don't have to use a ton of freaking, ingredients to make it happen. But you should know what actually works well with you on your prep scenario, right? If you know for a fact like you consuming like anabolic French toast is just going to make you want to binge on more of that French toast, because at the end of a prep when you're hungry, like sometimes those like 4 or 5 slices that you eat, you might just want another 4 or 5, right? And it might
Yeah.
just trigger you later on to then make more and make more, right? And so I think you have to really know yourself, right? Sometimes it might need to be putting that French toast aside and just having some steak and some potatoes, something a little bit more filling. It's not going to have you like thinking about the next time you're going to eat this meal, right?
Yeah.
It's a filling meal. It tastes great, but it's not going to give you that fixation of, oh, I need more sugar or I need more of this because it's sweet, right? I think a lot of people get that feeling with sweetness. I know for a fact I do. I have a very big sweet tooth. My biggest trigger is sweet food, like pastries. If I have one, I need to have another. Like I know that for me, even if I make it healthy, even if I make it super low calorie, I want to keep eating more of it. It doesn't like I don't get a sensation to stop. For me, it's like more. So, and I know there's probably other people that feel the same way. You
Yeah.
have to understand what those triggers are for you, right? In terms of your nutrition, setting that up during a prep.
Sweet and salty, bro. Barbecue chips, man. I can eat a whole bag.
So, like, yeah, exactly. And other people have like savory tooth, right? So, like, they want more savory stuff. I think that you have to really assess, right? I even have times when I have to tell myself, like, hey, today for my last meal, I'm not gonna make this like sweet whatever like protein thing, right? I'm just gonna switch to like chicken and make a wrap and then have some rice with it. Like boom, something like that that just numbs that sweet tooth. I'm pretty chill now and I just go straight to bed. Something like that I feel like is super huge. Like sometimes you might have to just push away from what your brain might be telling you to make the smart decision and then just reset the day. Like just you know what I mean? I think that's a very big thing. But let's go over how to get into a show.
Oh
So
man.
how do you get into a show?
Yeah.
um,
So there's different federations. There's the NPC, OCB, WBNF. Those are like the really three big ones. There's other ones too. I think we touched on that on the last podcast.
mhm.
But all you really do is you go onto the website and for each of those federations, you have to register for a card with them. So the NPC, you would go on the NPC website and you would register for essentially a membership with them. Most federations are going to be anywhere from like 100 to $200 to sign up for the federation, and that will give you generally about a year's worth of membership with them. So that's step one. Um, Really, even that can be step two. You can kind of flip flop because the next step is looking for an actual show. So the way that you can look for a show is you will look up the federation, followed with wherever your closest city is, and then like bodybuilding shows. So we live in the Chicagoland area, or Illinois, so we can Google NPC Illinois shows or NPC Chicago shows, and it will populate on Google. You'll be able to see the calendar dates for different shows for that year. You can also go do that on the Federation website. They generally also have calendars on there that will give you different shows for the entire country, so you can see different shows across the states. And then I would consult either with a coach, or if you're self-coaching, really pick out an appropriate show day and set your sights on it. You don't need to. I would refrain from signing up for a show as soon as you find it. Would not do that. I think that is a bad idea. I think you should get yourself into a pre-prep phase and really start your prep before you sign up for a show. I would go as far as to say wait 6 to 8 weeks, maybe even closer to that show day until you're ready to actually sign up for it. Most shows will not have a penalty for signing up that far out from a show day. But what it will allow you to do is decide whether or not you want to do that show, depending on your look, right? Depending on if you are in shape or not. The last thing that you want to do is show up to stage and not be in shape. As a bodybuilder, that is your one job. Showing up to stage in shape, making sure that you're properly conditioned, making sure that you know how to go
Fat
through
free.
poses. Yeah, you're fat free. And so waiting enough time, like you definitely don't want to sign up a week before the show. That's also irresponsible, but give yourself enough time. Once you know that you're going to be ready by that show day, totally fine. Sign up for that show. Lock it in and do it.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Yeah, just understanding that you got to pick a show that realistically, and hopefully you have a coach or somebody that's real with you that can tell you, yeah, dude, this seems like a good timeline. This seems like you're out of your mind. Like, so I think that is going to be a very big determining factor of that, right? Um, but yeah, so get your NPC card. see what federation, see what you want to do in terms of what class you want to be in, right? So like whether you want to do open bodybuilding, classic physique, men's physique. If you're a woman, you should look at all those other categories. You guys have way more categories
Yeah.
than we do. You have figure, you have
Bikini wellness,
bodybuilding, yeah,
bodybuilding.
bikini wellness. There's a fit model category, I'm
Like
pretty
that
sure.
one's crazy.
So
Backflips.
yeah, so there's a ton of different things that you can go and explore with that avenue. Kind of the same exact things apply in terms of how men's divisions are. I think women's divisions are also to a degree based on size, right? Like
Yeah.
the women's bodybuilding categories, you're going to get like bigger women, like girls
Yeah.
that have a lot more muscle mass. Figure, I think, is always going to be like a little bit more of like that intermediate. Bikini is definitely going to be like
Beginner.
you are, yeah, beginner, maybe not as much muscle mass. I would say very petite. I would say that's a very petite class. I think that's
It's more resemblant of like a beauty pageant. They are looking for
yes,
muscularity, but it definitely is like they're going for the prettiness. They're going for the shape.
Victoria's Secret model. That's when I think of
Yeah.
bikini, I think of Victoria's Secret model, right? Like they're not overly muscular, but they're definitely they have some shape, right?
Yeah.
And then fit category, if you are a gymnast or you want to show off your crazy
Yeah.
backflips and also be shredded
Yeah.
on stage,
You know.
which is crazy, you can also have that category and do that as well. So
I think a big thing to note here is like female competing as a female is more expensive than competing as a male
very true.
because you're like as a female, you need makeup, you need your posing suit, you need jewelry, you need your heels, and that easily alone combined can be over $1,000. That's without taking into account signing up for the show and registering for the federation.
And makeup,
Yeah,
yeah, do makeup,
yeah,
basically instead not just the tanning, right, which we
yeah,
guys have to do as well, but you don't have to worry about makeup.
yeah,
You guys have to also get your beauty done there,
yeah.
and they do
That's
charge for
very
that as well.
expensive. Yeah.
You can do it yourself too, but like I assume that they have people there that have done it before that are experts at like glamming women up and stuff like that. So it just kind of depends on how you want the aesthetic to be, right? But
Whereas like men, you buy really, I mean, you sign up for the show, you do your tanning, and
buy
then
some
you
trunks.
and you buy some trunks. Trunks you can find them as cheap as like $40 on Amazon, but like a good pair of trunks is like still under $100. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's a very big thing to just understand, especially if you're a woman going into any category. Like it's a big
financial
investment.
commitment. Yeah,
But yeah, I think that's huge. But once you understand what category you're going to do, different federations have different kinds of crossovers you can do, right? So I know that in the Natural Federation OCB, you can't necessarily do men's physique and open bodybuilding or classic
you
physique.
have to pick one.
Pick one, and you can only compete in the amateur and the open for that specific category. Or if you're like a masters, right, you could probably do masters and open or whatever, right? Which masters just means like 45 and over. So usually those are the older. That's an older category that people decide to join. But that's usually what you're going to do. NPC though, if you do a federation with the NPC, you can actually do like men's bodybuilding, men's classic physique, and
Men's physique,
men's physique.
all in one show if you wanted to.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've seen guys at shows do that. Like they just change shorts, they just change trunks the whole entire time, and they do all three. So that is something really cool you could try. You could see just what class you're
Yeah.
competitive with.
So if you do want to like crossover, if you want to compete in multiple divisions, then that would probably be the avenue that you want to take is competing in a federation like the NPC that is going to allow you to do those crossovers to see how you stack up against other competitors at the amateur level.
Yep.
So yeah,
Exactly. And once you have that, you basically just fill out the form. A lot of registration periods are usually done, like I think 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks before the show. So as long as you sign up before then, like you won't have to pay like a fee. But worst case
yeah.
scenario, you just pay for a fee if you show up late, whatever, or if you register late. But
Generally though, it's not more than any more than about 4 to 6 weeks out I've seen shows do. So like as long as you sign up before 4 to 6 weeks out, which at that point you should be pretty ready. Like you should know that you're going to be stage ready by that time. As long as you're signing up before then, you should be fine. You're not going to get any late entry fees. Also, just knowing if you want to compete in a natural federation or a enhanced federation, the NPC allows it's untested, so obviously there's going to be a greater chance that you will compete against somebody that is enhanced. And that's just the name of the game. I mean, bodybuilding is a enhanced sport. So, but there are federations too, like the OCB and the WBNF, that are natural only federations. So if you want to have a quote unquote like more fair competition, that is going to, and you're a natural, that is going to be those are some options that you have. But nonetheless, the NPC is definitely the biggest federation. It is the one that is sort of like the gold standard. It feeds into the IFBB. So this is where if you're trying to go for your pro card, this is the IFBB pro card. So
and they have more shows. So
yeah,
they usually have more shows than any other like local federations or natural federations. So that is one thing. So you do get just more back-to-back shows if you potentially want to do like a second or third show like right after the first one.
and greater exposure too. I think that's a big one. Like if you're competing, you're going to fucking win, right? Whether it's the amateur or the open class, like winning one of these shows is just go. It's just more clout. You there's more exposure to it. They are more well-known shows. I know in Illinois we have, what is it? The NPC does like 7 or so shows in the year, like 7 or 8 shows for the year. You win any of those shows, the local bodybuilding community will know your name,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is pretty cool. So like you build yourself a reputation that way as well. Like the NPC is very good about that. They're gonna plaster you all over their socials. People in the bodybuilding community in your local area will know who you are. So that's another big one. If you're trying to at some point get brand deals, brand sponsorships, maybe work with a local gym, whatnot, like that is an opportunity there as well.
Yeah, so that is huge. Yeah, so I think all those things combined, like that should give you enough information about which category, what federation, what all those things that you should do, right, considering getting into a show. But I mean, yeah, apart from like understanding what registration is, like getting your card right to compete for the year, and then all the expenses you're gonna have to have for just getting trunks, registering, maybe doing any crossovers. Apart from that, the biggest thing that okay, so this is something huge. I feel like I mean, you're gonna know this when you register, but I do think I see a lot of athletes messing this up. There's a check-in that you have to do before you compete, and it's usually done like 2 days or 3 days before the show. So if the show is on a Saturday, sometimes they have you checking in Thursday or Friday, something like that, right?
Read the show website, read it thoroughly, get familiar with it.
Yeah, I think that is huge because I do see even when I have been to check-ins with other athletes, like there are people that just don't show up or they forget or they're late. And that's huge because if you don't show up to those things,
Can't
you're
compete.
technically not competing for that. You know what I'm saying? Like that day, it's like, oh, well, you just didn't show. And promoters have that. It happens all the time. Reading the fine line, understanding that if you already put money aside to this, like it would suck if you just did not jot that down and now
Yeah.
the competition's over. Like you're not competing anymore, right?
Most promoters are pretty cool too. So if you have any questions about, that you couldn't find on the website, email them, bother them. It's fine. Like, do it. Make sure you ask questions. You are giving them money, and it's a big chunk of money. So like, just email them, read the website, become familiar with it. Make sure you read all the rules. Make sure you read, when your check-in time is, or when they're going to send out emails for check-in times. If you haven't received yours yet and you feel like you should have, email or call the promoter. But yeah, make sure that you do your check-in because if you don't have your number, if you don't get weighed in, if you don't check in, you won't be able to compete when it comes to show day.
Yeah, so just make sure you have all those. I think that is very huge. The day of the show, the only other things that you really have to worry about are making sure that you submit your music. Submit your music if you're going to decide to do a posing routine. Submit your music on time. Don't wait till the last day to do it. Don't wait till like the DJ is there and it's like, yo, like you have no music. I've had that happen before with
Yeah.
an athlete.
Oh
Do it
man,
on time.
they give you the
Like,
shittiest music, man.
yeah,
They really do. They don't care. They will give you the stadium music or the state whatever it is, and it's usually something really shitty, like to put it bluntly. And if you have a routine, obviously it's not going to go well with whatever whatever they probably.
you
Yeah,
practice it, you put in hours of your time trying to perfect it
that
to
would
one
suck.
song, and then now they don't do it. I'll tell you guys, like a lot of these promoters, a lot of these DJs, they want things rolling. Like
Yeah,
they don't have much patience to if you're brand new or not. Like
they don't
especially
care.
in the NPC. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna lie, the NPC,
they don't care.
they'll eat you up. Like they don't care. And so you have to really come at this like, especially if you're like, I feel like if you're a younger guy, right, and you feel like, um, things should be a little bit more laid out. Like I definitely think this federation is going to just kind of kick you in the teeth a little bit because you're going to come into this, and a lot of them they're just not going to have patience for you. You're going to have to learn very quickly to just be an adult and do things properly, right? Do things on time and punctually because yeah, you wait till the day of the show, all of those people backstage are just gonna one, they're gonna think you're a rookie, you're an amateur, like you're not serious about this, and two, they're gonna be pissed off at you, like they're not gonna have patience with you. So if you want to avoid that, take care of that way before, like weeks before, so that you don't have to deal with that. And it's just another stressor, you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like it's you put this on yourself by not acting in time, right? And also putting those things forward in time. So understand that, and I think that should help you so that the day of the show you're not stressing about really much anything else besides you getting on stage, right? Um, but yeah, other than that, like I think once you get all those things done, all you really have to do is just show up the day of the show. And a lot of the times, the athletes are gonna have to meet earlier than when the crowd arrives. So they're gonna give you a schedule. They're gonna let you know, hey, like this is when you have to be here. They usually have like a meeting with you. They tell you how the show's gonna go, when you're approximately gonna be up, and then after that, it's really just kind of like a waiting game. Just kind of chilling backstage, walking around, de-stressing,
Yeah,
maybe just eating. Honestly, just eating
yeah,
most of the
grazing.
time. Grazing, drinking water, making sure that you've got enough. But all those things set aside, I think that's probably going to be the biggest thing than leading into the show. But yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
day of the show, definitely come prepared. Make sure you have food. Make sure you have water. Um, Make sure you have like a band if possible, like some sort of so you can pump up in the athlete area. Um,
You can get dumbbells ones.
Yeah, like some small pair of dumbbells would be good
Most
too.
shows do not provide this, by the way. Don't expect there to be bands. Don't expect there to be dumbbells.
Yeah.
Don't expect any of that at all. Like always bring your stuff. Always bring it because yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've seen competitors backstage asking other competitors for bands, and or I've had athletes before that have not brought a band, and they have to wait in order for someone that's there to bring it to them, or they borrow it from somebody, and now they just don't. They have a lackluster pump heading into the show
On
like they're
stage, yeah.
on stage.
Which sucks because I mean you've already done all this work. You might as well be on stage, pumped, vascular, looking full, looking good. Because I mean that like, come on now. What do you look better like after you work out or before you work out? Generally after, right? So like, come on now. Like, make sure you come prepared. Make sure you have everything that you need. Have a checklist. Lay things out in your room, on your bed, whatever the day before. The clothes that you wear, expect it to get ruined. So maybe wear dark or black clothes because your tan's gonna get all over it. I would bring slides so that you don't get tan all over your socks or your shoes. Um, yeah.
I think all those things combined will definitely help you so that the day of the show, like you're less stressed, you're not really worrying about things. I like to think like the day of the show, you should, I mean, the work is done at that point. At this point, like the best thing you can do is just chill out, practice some posing, right? Make sure you're level-headed heading on stage, right? Like everything feels as good as it's gonna
Yeah.
be, right?
Like you did it already. It's over. Yeah.
Exactly. And so once it comes down to like getting up on stage, all you got to worry about is pumping up and just performing the best you possibly can and listening to cues, listening to what the judges are telling you. They say quarter turn, make sure
Yeah.
you're listening. That's huge too. Once you're on stage, I had a competitor once that messed up the quarter turn. So
And they do not care. If
they don't
you
care.
quarter turn to the wrong side during prejudging, and like that's a pose you missed. You didn't hit that pose, and that can greatly affect the grading of your and like your placing. So
Especially if it was
yeah,
close, especially if it's close and you got
yeah,
somebody that you're competing with,
yeah.
you're like tooth and nail with, like yeah, 100% that is gonna make a
They don't
difference.
care at these amateur shows. They're going to move it along. They want to get to the next class. They're going to have you keep on quarter turning. So make sure you're listening to the judges' cues. Generally, it's quarter turn to the right. So when you start on your front relaxed, they're going to have you quarter turn to your right, but listen to the judges' cues. Make sure you're listening. Another big thing too is like if you have a coach there with you and there's somebody that has helped you through your posing through the entire time. And when you're going through compulsories, right? And they're telling you lean, twist, glutes, listen to those call outs as well. That's going to also help a ton. Like that is free fucking like sauce that you're getting from the audience perspective, right? So if you can hear those things out too, it's absolutely going to help.
Exactly. So yeah, I think that's a big one. So just always make sure you got your ears open that day.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're taking everything and then just executing to the best you possibly can. At the end of it all, I think those are probably going to be the biggest things. We're running out of time though, and I know we were supposed to cover reverse dieting, but that might have to be another episode because that's a ginormous topic.
Yeah. Reverse and off season we could probably go into.
Yeah,
That'd be fun. Yeah.
hopefully you guys got a lot of value out of this. You definitely highlighted a lot of things. I know we ranted on a couple different things, but hopefully this is making sense to you guys and you guys can apply this going into a prep. It's your first show. Even if you just want to just start looking more like you lift, right? Maybe you're just not so interested in doing a show, but you just want to look more jacked. I think these are variables you can apply to just looking better in general, right?
High reps to tone the muscle.
Yeah. I think bodybuilding-esque physiques are what majority of people, or at least the younger crowd right now, wants to aspire to look like, right? Like at least for me, like when I was getting into this,
Yeah.
like I wanted to look like the freaking guys on the magazine.
Yeah.
Um,
Even if you're going for like aesthetics, right? If you're going for like an aesthetic build, which is something that you'll see plastered all over social media, the style of training is the same. It's bodybuilding style training. Bodybuilders just do it or tend to do it to a different extreme, right? Like we train balls to the walls every single fucking time if possible. And, obviously we put ourselves through, hard dieting phases. Some of us put ourselves through hard bulking phases. So that is,
competitive diet.
yeah, that is, that is the difference, right? But regardless, all the principles are still the same. The training principles, the nutrition principles, if you want to achieve a more jacked aesthetic look, all this will apply.
So tune in, like, subscribe. Please share this with
Yeah.
anybody that you guys know.
If there's anything that you want us to cover in the next episode, please let us know down in the comments below. We will definitely cover the reverse dieting and off season in the next episode. But if there's anything else, any questions that you want us to go over, please let us know in the comments below. But thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Coach Gons on all platforms, OSA coaching on all platforms. Stay Unkaged. We'll see you guys next time.